Look, memory can change the shape of a room, it can change the color of a car. And memories can be distorted. They're just an interpretation, they're not a record. And they're irrelevant if you have the facts.
Someone wants me. Someone roaming the streets wants me.
Your car's uglier than I am. That didn't come out right.
It's the Al Travis Show, and we're lucky to have her. She's Senator Juliet Coleman. Senator, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Al. How about yourself?
I can't complain. They just continue to put stuff out there we can talk about, and that's all I need. To start things off, I want to talk about the governor and a couple of things he's doing. And then I want to get your thoughts on motive, because there's two of them coming out here. One mine and one everybody else's, so maybe I'm wrong. So the governor wants to call a special session. We've been talking that for a while, and we will discuss it in a second. It doesn't make sense to old Al because the numbers aren't there. The governor comes out day before yesterday, and he's chatting, well, maybe we should just do a constitutional amendment. No one else in the hierarchy said, we've been talking anything about a constitutional amendment. What are you talking about? My theory is that takes all this extra fraud, because we're going to talk about fraud coming up here in a minute, takes that off the front page. Let's talk constitutional amendments. Let's talk the special session. But the people on his side and those that will bend over backwards to give grace, and I'm not saying that's necessarily wrong, are telling me it's because he's still so upset about what happened with the Hortmans, and he's talking to the relatives and the friends. He promised, I'm going to do something. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter if it can't even happen. He is going to move forward with this. It's because he's just so distraught. I think the guy was a 12-year congressman. I think he's 6, 8, 7 years, whatever it is, as a governor. He ran for vice president. I'm telling you, I think there's more political here than feelings. Which one of us is right?
Well, I certainly can see the political side of it, because politics is a game of numbers. And at the end of the day, he doesn't have the numbers for a special session. And that's not even talking about Republicans. Certain senators could not vote for something like an AR ban. And I guarantee they are not going to want a constitutional amendment on the ballot the same time they're going to be on the ballot. Or let's talk the Iron Range here.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of talk and not a lot of action. And so I think you're absolutely spot on that he wants to say he's doing something and then put the blame somewhere else.
All right, so let's talk down to just the latest, the constitutional amendment. My issue with a lot of them is they're almost worded negatively. I'm sitting in the booth, I'm voting for everybody, then I get the constitutional amendment, and your reading is like, if I'm for this, that means I'm against something. You know what I'm saying? They're so clouded in the verbiage, you don't know exactly what you're voting for. So I'm not a big fan of it. I'm especially not a big fan with the fact we're going to try to write this while everybody's up in arms. Their emotions are up because of what's happened in Minnesota this year. Is the only saving grace that because the numbers are tied, if they got one through, it would be worded correctly, that we'd have an honest shot at what they're talking about?
I don't even see the constitutional amendment going through the House. So I don't see there being any wording whatsoever, because I could see House Republicans saying you can't have a constitutional amendment, take away a constitutional right. And I just don't see that going anywhere in the House. Now, there are a couple of Republican House members that may say, hey, let's let the people decide. And so I would see more clear wording coming out of that. But again, in the Senate, there are certain members that are not going to want anything having to do with ARs on the ballot the same year they're on the ballot.
Okay. And that's fair enough. But then what about the special session? Let's go down to that. Again, everybody I'm talking to seems to think that this is going to happen. Again, it makes no sense to me. You're 67 in the House, aren't going to get anything done. In the Senate, what are you, 33, 32? Neither side even has enough to pass a yes or no vote. Can you even get to order?
We can't even get to quorum in the Senate.
So then again, he's so mentally distraught he can't figure this out. Al's being told this by Julia right now. No one's told him this. What do you do then? You get called in the session and the Senate can't get called to order? Is the session over? Or does the House get to just do a whole bunch of crap until you guys figure it out?
Well, I think at that point it's the House's show as well. I mean, we're not saying Senate Republicans wouldn't show up in order to establish a quorum, but Senate
Hmm.
Democrats on their own cannot establish this. And you also have to keep in mind that just strategically, I don't see the point. Wouldn't it be better for him to have traditional session end and then go blaming Republicans for lack of
Hmm.
movement on certain gun legislation as we're closer to November, rather than this
Yeah.
is going to be over a year out from voters' memory? The math isn't there, the timing doesn't make sense, and I think back to your original point, that's absolutely it. He just wants to look like he's doing something, rather than actually taking the time to come to an agreement with legislative leaders on something that we all agree could possibly get done here.
All right, and to work this down for folks who are paying attention, so the two Senate seats, those will both be filled in November, right? The first week in November, they're going to get voted on.
Yeah.
Those will be filled. But then so then the Senate could do something. But the problem instantly becomes, aren't the two people running for the Senate seat there in Woodbury, I believe, both House members? Or at least one of them is.
One of them is, and
Okay.
the Democrats are favored in that race, and so the Democrat is a House member, which is going to trigger, I think, our like seventh special set election of the cycle. So
That's what
then they're down again.
So if she wins that race, Senate becomes full, but now the House isn't, and you could probably still do business, except it's the Democrats who would be behind. So then they have to have a special session. That gets you, I mean, that's November. You're talking near January to get a vote off, and everybody goes back to session in February. So that would probably wipe out this special session, wouldn't it? I mean, you're just not going to go down that road that far.
I know you're talking to a lot of people that seem to think it's going to happen, and I'll be happy to say, hey, you guys were right, but I don't see the timing working out on that.
All right. I completely agree. So, okay, you and I agree on this. Let's do this. Let's go to break early. Another fraud has been brought up. I've got people getting on me for talking about fraud too much when I think it's the biggest thing going on in the state of Minnesota. We'll talk about it right after this with Senator Julia Coleman.
Hey, Brian, what do you call a lobbyist with a sense of humor?
Me?
Close. Momentum advocacy.
We help clients get real results at the Capitol with strategy, relationships, and just enough charm to make it fun.
From policy wins to media spots, we've got your back.
Nonprofits, businesses, coalitions, we've helped them all.
And we do it with nearly 90 years of combined experience.
Momentum advocacy.
As always, your friends at the Capitol. Learn more about our team at momentum-advocacy.com.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
It's nice to know a guy that knows a guy. Al Travis.
I've got our Senator Julia Coleman on the program with us. Senator, if you'll oblige me, a story came out of Japan of a scam. Some guy got a hold of an elderly gal with a lot of money and convinced her that he was in the International Space Station and that they're running out of air. And she had to send him whatever thousands of yen or he was going to die. And she did. She didn't die. He didn't die. But they sent the money. Some people shouldn't have money because it's just too easy to scam them. I believe the state of Minnesota is very much like that young lady, the lady who sent the money. We don't even make it hard to steal. I don't think a guy, if you want to send an email to somebody and say, I'm in the space station, send me money, and they do, I don't even know if it should be illegal. It's wrong, but it shouldn't be illegal. Minnesota's the same way, Senator. We have another one of these scams, the ICS program, never heard of it before, Integrated Community Sports Program. And I believe it's probably just as easy as just saying, all you had to do was mail us an invoice and we'll send you a check. I'm scared it's that easy. Is it that easy to steal from people in Minnesota?
As we're seeing, I mean, it seems like you can't open up a newspaper without hearing about new fraud in the state of Minnesota. And Representative Marianne O'Neill said she had a big glimpse into this and said, we're going to uncover the fact that there is an industry, an actual industry of fraud in Minnesota. And I had an amendment, I'll never forget this, that said, if you are going to give out grant dollars or whatever it is, Medicaid dollars, you have to make one site visit prior to dispersing the funds. And Democrats voted me down. I mean, it's very simple things that I think could make very simple fixes, yet we aren't seeing any action on them. And it's allowing for rampant fraud because nobody wants to, talk about the elephants in the room that we actually have created an entire industrial complex of fraud in the state, and we need to crack down on it.
Well, when it comes to cracking down on it, I don't even know, is there a law for me to scam them, to do, here, the autism one. The autism fraud thing gets worse and worse every time they report on it. So some person is going out looking for quote unquote kids' names to send into the state of Minnesota to say they're treating him for autism. And let's just say Al falls, yeah, I'd like you to watch my kid. Some other fraudster comes over and says, you know what, I'll give you $500 a month if you list your kid with me. I tell the first one, I'm getting $500. He says, I'll give you $1,000. They're literally shopping their kids to fraudsters to fraud the state. I want the parents also jailed. Is that wrong?
Well, I think if you're knowingly participating in fraud, then that would be a crime versus if, they say they're going to offer services at a certain point and never do, and you get totally scammed, that would be different.
Getting checks back, Senator. Name another program. Name a state program where if you participate, they send you money.
Well, and it's whole families. Like when you look at these names, it's whole families and neighborhoods in on these crimes. And I just don't get how, the Walz administration, I would say after feeding our future, would I be having my auditor's office going through every single agency saying, we need to find this and have the same pattern. I need an agent out at every single site that claims to be using dollars. And I want you to personally look at it and get back to me. If something like that had happened after feeding our future, think about all of the money that would have been saved. And again, as a lawmaker who sat there and watched us cut money from schools and special ed and watched us cut money from nursing homes and human services, and then to go see this much, I mean, we're talking $1 billion or more in fraud in the state. Oh, it's just heart-wrenching. And again, it's just such a lack of leadership cracking down on this.
Well, and it seems a lack of anyone caring. And what I mean by that is if you're in the Department of Human Services, and I'm sure there's some great people there, but you're watching these checks go out. The last one on Friday was the autism thing. This gal had no center. All of a sudden she's got a center. And then 2 years later, she's doing $14 million. And we're writing checks to this gal. You know nothing about it. Oh, well, she got $14 million. Just send the check. Does somebody understand that the kids that needed the help, the autistic kids of the world, didn't get it because that person at the Department of Human Services didn't speak up, didn't stop the checks? The kids aren't getting what they're supposed to get. I'm getting scammed out of my money, and everything goes along as normal because we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. This woman, Julia, if your income in 1 year spikes up, Senator Coleman, sorry, if income spikes up. My accountant said, "Hey, Al, watch it this year. It went up enough. You might be red flag. You might have an audit." Okay, we were not cheating anybody. We get one, we get one. How can you go from not making any money to $14 million, all of it from the state of Minnesota, and the Minnesota IRS isn't looking into it?
Well, and if you're running a legitimate daycare center in the state of Minnesota, you have a bunch of scheduled visits and then a couple random ones per year that you don't know about to just make sure that you're, dotting your I's and crossing your T's and everything's on the up and up. But if you're running an autism center for children, there's nothing like that. And so, again, there has to be, if you are getting taxpayer dollars, there has to be some sort of oversight. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, at some point you have to say, who in DHS do we have to look at?
Well, thank you. And it is funny because you'll see this gal with the 14 million autism, she was also in the Feeding Our Futures. Can we make one law that if you're currently under investigation for fraud against Minnesota, you don't get any more checks till we clear your name? Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. You shouldn't be able to scam another program while you're under investigation for scamming a different program. I mean, it's just, I don't know what to say anymore. Like, I just open up the newspaper and there's another story, and I go to the legislature and I try to, make do with what we have. And then you open up the paper and see that we're losing hundreds of millions more. It seems like every month, sometimes every week. And, you just want to pull your hair out.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine. Let's do this the last couple minutes before I let you go. The red flag laws. We're going to chat a little bit about this big story in the paper yesterday, day before, about the 281 people in Minnesota that the red flag laws have worked. And if you read the story, it makes it sound we're so safe now because of it. It didn't stop the Annunciation Church shooting. That guy, in my opinion, somebody should have turned him in. And on the other hand, there was no way since 2024, there was going to be 281 mass shootings because of these people. Now, they needed help. They got help. I am happy for it. But that play in the paper where, see, you're so much safer because of it, I don't know that I believe it.
Well, the grounds for having the red flag law used on you were very low. So I would be curious if they looked into those 284 cases and how many times the judge actually deemed that this person was a threat to public, or he just went before a judge. So I'd be very curious to look further into the data on that. We have to keep in mind, though, when we're talking about keeping students safe, or, I was just at the cathedral on Sunday and there's somebody protecting me with an AR. It's so weird going to mass with firearms protecting us. But at the end of the day, let's say Democrat trifecta, they take away every firearm. Well, there are going to be bad people that still get their hands on guns. Okay, so let's talk about mental health. Let's say we make universal mental health care in the state of Minnesota. There are still going to be some people that are deranged that will never seek that help. So once Plan A and Plan B fail, you have to then look at what's the only thing that is going to guarantee we're going to stop a bad guy with a gun, and that is a good guy with a gun. We're talking about protecting all of us at the legislature with them, but God forbid we talk about protecting our most precious assets with them. And so it's really frustrating when we're talking about special session or we're talking about solutions that we're only ever talking about the Second Amendment when we are not talking about how to utilize the Second Amendment to actually protect us, because Route A and Route B don't have 100% success rates.
And one that just as you're chatting, Bram's mind, I remember a time, I don't know, way back when school resource officers was something we were trying to get going, and then we stopped that. I think it might help getting him back in. Just throwing it out there.
Oh, I would move heaven and earth to find the budget to make sure public, private, charter, what have you, every school has a school resource officer.
Completely agree. Senator Coleman, I know you had a very busy week last week. I thank you very much for coming to the program and being a part of this. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
She's Senator Julia Coleman on the Al Travis Show.
Tired of one-sided media and divisive